Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to leave a stack of my cards here because I hope that you will all want to follow up at the close of this presentation. And I will be making the slides available via email to anyone who wants them, because this is a very densely packed slideshow full of a ton of information. And I want to make sure that I make it accessible to all of you so that you can do your part to save the planet. So Mr. Gore, several months ago, held a training and provided us with resources on the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, and encouraged us to take his slides, customize them for what's going on in our state, and start disseminating this information to everybody. The programs are all live now, and they go till 2032. But the best time ever to take action is the year 2024. So I have been giving this presentation to anybody who will listen, because 2024 is really the year of the maximum amount of savings you can get. So prepare yourselves to be blown away by all the resources that the state of Colorado, your utilities, and the federal government are providing. So what makes the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law so important? They're the single biggest climate legislation in the world. There is literally no single piece of legislation by any country anywhere that's larger than the combination of the IRA and the BIL. And it is specifically oriented towards environmental justice, cleaning up polluted neighborhoods, creating clean energy jobs. We have already scored a battery factory for Brighton and a solar panel manufacturing facility in Pueblo. And I think some of you know that the world's largest wind turbine plant is in Pueblo. So Colorado is doing very well in capitalizing on the IRA and the BIL. And they will help us dramatically lower our emissions, which we really have to do after, as everybody knows, we broke the record in July, in August, in September, in October, in November. This will be the hottest year ever recorded, and it only gets worse. We're at 1.3 degrees C. We've missed our chance to make it to 1.5 degrees C. And if we go ahead with all the fossil fuel projects that are in the pipeline, we will land at 2.7 degrees C. That's almost 6 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than it is now. It will change. We won't have ski areas anymore. So things are getting very dire, and that is why I'm here. So it is, again, the largest piece of federal legislation ever, and it is, therefore, in peril. And it will be in peril after the presidential election. It will be in peril when Congress changes hands. They are attempting to gut the act right now with every single spending measure that's moving through Congress. And it's amazing because everybody's making out like a bandit, but it's the principle of the thing that they have to shut it down. So now is the time that we need to capitalize on it. The Inflation Reduction Act provides $369 billion for energy security and climate solutions, but there's no ceiling on the bill. So you can just keep applying, and they can just keep approving. And if you can't apply for a grant under the Inflation Reduction Act, you can apply for one under the bipartisan infrastructure law. So between the two of them, we have the opportunity to totally bend this curve away from fossil fuels and into a decarbonized society. And that's what I want to encourage all of you to give some thought to tonight. We need to talk to our cities, our counties, the Department of Local Affairs at the state level, the Energy Office, the Department of Transportation. Absolutely everybody has to get in on this plan, and they are. And so I will be telling you a little bit about what the state is doing. So let's take a look at the BIL part of the plan. $91 billion for public transit, $75 billion for clean energy, $66 billion for passenger and freight rail. We have applied to run the Front Range passenger rail from Pueblo to Boulder to Fort Collins to Union Station in a giant loop around the state. $50 billion for climate resilience, which is increasingly important. Last year, we passed a law to waive the sales tax for people who are rebuilding after Cameron Peak, Grizzly Creek, and the Marshall fires, so that we can do our parts there. $21 billion for environmental remediation, extremely important now that all hurricanes are Category 5 hurricanes. We just don't have Cat 1 hurricanes anymore. $18 billion for vehicle electrification. You'll see how much Colorado is matching that incentive, but I will give away a little bit of my game and tell you that Colorado offers the most incentives in the nation, the highest amount of discounts for the purchase of an electric vehicle. And you will be excited about that. So the bipartisan infrastructure law is going after jobs everywhere and infrastructure everywhere. Our infrastructure is badly dated. So there's $550 billion in the bipartisan infrastructure law and $369 billion in the IRA. And that means the federal government is shoveling nearly $1 trillion out the door in the next decade to decarbonize this country. These are the area where you have a personal stake in making sure that Colorado maximizes the benefits from the federal funding by applying for grants. So you can, for example, this year we waived the fees for children to ride RTD. So RTD is free all year round for school-age children, and in 2 months of the year, RTD is free for everyone. We're running the ski train longer than we ever have before to Winter Park. We're going to be running more bus stangs. We're going to be doing an awful lot of stuff. We're also starting up micro-commuting, where we're using the mini buses to do things like shuttle people from Candelas, that big, huge housing development out there on 93, to the Taj Mahal, where they can pick up the light rail and take that into Union Station. So that's some examples of some of the things that we are doing. Colorado has applied for and received $321 million just for transportation projects. And that includes e-bikes and EVs, as well as rapid transit and multimodal transit. So this is all stuff that $20 million just got delivered to the Department of Local Affairs to be shoved out to every community, to do things like start your own e-bike program, or develop bike lanes on your roads, or put in roundabouts so you can slow down traffic. Lots of opportunities there, and all the stuff in green is things that we as citizens can ask our local and state government to apply for. So the IRA specifically targets what are known as disproportionately impacted communities, the communities that live next to Suncor, next to the steel mill in Pueblo, next to the cement plant in Lyons, those kinds of facilities. And it's also got almost $10 billion to help rural electric associations convert their fossil fuel assets to clean energy assets and buy them wind and solar and batteries. $5 billion for new energy community reinvestment, for burying grid lines. We know that the Marshall Fire was half caused by XL power lines getting downed as a result of our high Chinook winds. And the way to solve that problem is to bury our future transmission lines as we move to more advanced technology. So we're going to be using a lot of that money. We got $400 million to run what's known as the Colorado Power Pathway, which is bringing in all the wind energy from the wind farms on the Eastern Plains that you can see when you fly into DIA now, if you're coming from the East Coast, to bring all that transmission power into the city where everybody lives. $4 billion in clean energy manufacturing. So that's how we scored our solar panel plant and our battery factory. This is where the energy jobs are going, and look at Colorado. We owe a lot of this to the National Renewable Energy Lab, to NOAA and NCAR, because as the federal leaders in climate policy, they attract a lot of new business startups to Colorado, and the state really capitalizes on that knowledge base. So we are right now testing 2 new types of batteries that will no longer require us to mine for lithium or cobalt. And that will be a great day when we can move to solid state batteries. There's a company in Louisville, Colorado called Solid Power that has a contract with both BMW and Ford to provide solid state batteries for their electric vehicles, which will allow them to run up to 500 miles and charge in 8 minutes. So a new evolution is taking place right as we speak, right in our state. It's very exciting. Across the country, just in the year since the IRA and the BIL passed, we have added 136,000 jobs to the economy. So I credit the IRA and the BIL for why we didn't slide into a recession. When inflation got so high, we just kept hiring people and giving everybody a job. Now, all of that's great. It's a bunch of big infrastructure stuff. It'll help. All the kids get electric school buses. It's about time we took our kids away from those dirty diesel engines. But what is in it for me? For me. So let's talk about what's in it for you. The best tax credits in history. So if you want to put rooftop solar, the federal government will cover 30% of the cost of your electric panels. What solar companies are doing is they are taking that 30% and applying it to your installation and your wiring costs. And that is why you're seeing all these ads that say, get rooftop solar for free. You literally get it for free because they're using the federal incentives to offset what used to be, when I got my rooftop solar, a pretty hefty installation charge and a many months long wait to hook up to the grid so that XL could pay me for all the energy I produce that I don't use. So that's another great way to make money off of solar, is that we passed a law 2 years ago at the state legislature that allows you to put 200% of the electricity you use on your roof and sell the rest. So there's no need to do a little dinky solar install anymore. You can cover your whole house. I don't know if you all remember the giant hailstorm of 2017 that took out every roof in Jeffco. And it did not take out mine because I have 26 panels on my roof. And so the 3,000 panels at NREL's headquarters, only 3 panels were lost out of 3,000 in the 2017 storm. And it's because a baseball-size hail hit the panel in the exact same location, like 3 times in a row, and did that thing that we all do when we drop our phones in the corner, right? Scatter shot. So if you want to get solar on your rooftop, if you want to put a fuel cell vehicle in your garage, if you want to have a wind turbine, the federal government will pay for 30% of that cost. Now you can get a home battery at 30% off. And XL is offering a program right now where they will upgrade your solar inverter to a bi-directional inverter so that you can both receive energy and deliver energy for half price. So a $9,000 Powerwall plus a $1,500 solar inverter is right now $5,000 at XL, because they want us to move to what's known as distributed energy resources. You'll hear it referred to as DER. I kind of like saying "der." But one way to avoid these high power transmission lines and these very expensive grids is to hook everybody's roofs up to solar, put batteries on their houses, and let them run their own power plant. And that's what it's actually called, a virtual power plant. And that is our future. That's where we're moving. Starting in 2024, all new home construction has to be solar and EV charger ready. So new homes will come pre-wired to support distributed energy resources. So you can get 30% off solar PV if you don't have it. Like I said, I have 26 panels, and I love the fact that I pay $5 hookup fee once, every month, and my electricity is free. I also have a level 2 charging station that is public, so you can pull up to my garage and hit a barcode with your phone and charge your car in my driveway. And if you want to get a heat pump, this is the year to do it because it's $3,000 off a ground source heat pump and tax-free air and ground source heat pumps, which is another significant chunk of money. It's about a $12,000 furnace or replacement cost to replace a furnace with a heat pump. And then a 10% of the purchase price up to $1,500, but that ends in 1/1/24, and then you get a flat $1,500 fee. So $3,000 for air source heat pumps until 2026, and then from 2023 to 2032, again for 10 years, it goes to $2,000 a year. For a geothermal heat pump, 30% of the cost. I'm actually quite interested in that because I have hot water baseboard heat, so it would be great to convert my old gas furnace to a geothermal installation. A high efficiency new water heater, $150 off. An more efficient air conditioner, more efficient Energy Star appliances. I just bought an induction cooktop, 30% off. So they will pay 30% of a new electric panel if you need to upgrade your wiring. And I needed a new panel for my EV charger. So they will pay 30% of the cost of a new electrical panel, 30% of insulation, 30% of new windows, 30% for a specific type of blind. Hunter Douglas makes a type of energy efficiency blind that the federal government will give you a 30% discount on. There's just amazing deals rolling out to electrify your home and improve your energy efficiency. And again, 2024 is the year to do it. In addition, Xcel is putting, if you're a low-income customer, if you're on the LEAP program, the Energy Assistance Program, and you own a home, Xcel will put rooftop solar on your house for you, and you will pay for it through your electric bills. So you can literally get solar for free if you live in a disproportionately impacted community or if you're a low-income resident. They will also, as I said, put a battery on your house. And depending upon how much of your control you want to give it to Xcel, which is an argument I always have, is how much do I want to control my quality of living and how much do I want to give Xcel? But Xcel will actually buy the battery, own the battery, put it on your house, and you agree to let them take up to 60% of the battery during times of peak load. And then in the middle of the night or when there's lots of wind on the system, they will recharge that 60% of your battery that they took. They're doing the same thing with chargers because they want to steal your car battery too. So if you have an electric vehicle, they'll give you a free EV charger and they'll go in and sneak some of your battery power during times of peak demand. And in this way, we don't have to build more power plants. So moving on to cars, fueleconomy.gov is the place to go to find out what cars at any given moment qualify for federal tax incentives. As you can see from the red box there, beginning in 2023, you get a tax credit for a used electric vehicle of up to $4,000. So now you can buy a new or a used one. There's lots of Priuses and Leafs hitting the market, even Tesla Model 3s used as people upgrade to newer Teslas with longer battery range. So now you can get a new or a used car up to $7,500 off. This is the list of cars in 2023 that have models that are available for either half of the federal tax credit, $3,750, or the full federal tax credit, $7,500. So let's take a look at some of those. So in the state, we offer an additional $5,000 off of an EV. We don't care if it's made in America. We don't care if its battery components are made in America. If it's a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric vehicle, the state will give you $5,000 off. So now you're up to $12,500 off a car, and it gets even better. So there is a BMW, there's a Cadillac, there's a whole bunch of Chevys. The new Chevy EV Silverado is the competition for the Ford F-150 Lightning. The Pacifica is a van, an electric van. The E-Transit cargo van and Escape. The F-150 Lightning. The great thing about the F-150 Lightning is that it can power your house. So you can use, and more cars will be what's known as V2G, vehicle to grid, that will allow you to actually use the car in your garage to power your home in the event of a power outage. So these are just all the various EVs that are available on the market right now. And in 2024, the federal and the state credits become dealer assignable. So that means you can go to the dealer and you can say, here's my tax return, take $5,000 off the purchase price, take $7,500 off the purchase price, add them all together, and order my car for me. In most cases, you have to get your car ordered if you want the model, the paint color, the interior, the trim package that you want, because they're slow to roll off the assembly line. So 2024 is a great year to literally get it right off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So let's add up all this money. $7,500 is the highest federal credit, plus $5,000 is the highest state credit. But if you're driving a car that's a 2011 or older, the state will pay you up to $6,000 to take that car off the road and get your gas guzzler off. And if you're a low-income resident and you buy a low-cost car, they will add another $2,500 off. This is all the money that the state of Colorado is spending on transportation funding. So what you see there is almost $15 million for DC fast charging plazas. Think of a truck stop with a whole bank of gas pumps. Only in this case, it'll be a plaza full of charging stations. DC, fast chargers. Rivian is putting a charger in every state park. So you will be able to drive to any state park and charge your car. There's $8.7 million already set aside for level 2 chargers around the state. So, and then you can see all the different e-bike program, an e-cargo bike program, the vehicle exchange, the cash for clunkers, local government readiness programs. So if you buy a car that's $35,000 or less, the state will give you an extra $2,500. And then $6,000 for the old clunker that you're driving around right now. And what that means is that you can get a brand new 2024 Chevy Volt. The Bolt was originally going to cease production at the end of 2023, but there was such a clamor for these low-cost, very, very efficient cars that, Chevy put them back on the market. So we will have 2024 EUVs. And the high end of a Chevy Bolt is $30,695. That's a souped up Bolt, minus $21,000 in federal and state credits means you can drive a brand new Bolt off the lot for under $10K. This is the year 2024 and only 2024. The $5,000 credit drops to $3,500 in 2025. And it may go away completely in 2026 if we don't have the state funding for it. But right now we have almost $9 million set aside to offer this $5,000 state credit plus $2,500 for a less than $35,000 car, plus $6,000 for clunkers, etc. And they're not done because trucks cost more than cars. And trucks weigh more, which means they have bigger batteries, and the batteries weigh more. So when you buy a truck, and you all know how popular trucks are in Colorado, trucks and Subarus, you get $12,000 off. So now you can buy an F-150 Lightning and have a power plant for your house and drive it off the lot for $24,495, which is cheaper than a new regular F-150. So it's an amazing year to buy a car. Go to any of the dealers, and I will give you a whole list of dealers here coming up on these slides. But the point is that the charging station is tax exempt, so you don't pay any sales or use tax on the charging station. $5,000 off a purchase or a lease, a minimum 2-year lease. So if you want to experiment with owning an electric vehicle, you can apply all these credits against a leased car, which is an unbeatable deal. It's like $100 a month to drive an EV and never pay for gas again. And then up to $1,300 off the cost of a level 2 charger. My charger was only $695, but I got it for free if I made it public. So that's why I have a barcode on the outside of my house, because it got me a free charger, and who's going to turn down a free charger? So again, Xcel, and if you're a Black Hills customer or a Tri-State customer, all of our electric utilities must be 80% renewable electricity in the next 7 years. So they are anxious to get people to electrify their homes. So they are offering all sorts of things to electrify your home. So in addition to the Battery Connect program, they also will buy your charger for you if they can take a little bit of your battery when they need it. Or if you agree to only charge at night, they will give you $1,000 off and cover the cost of the installation, up to $500. Or you can buy your own charger and then just charge whenever you want. But you can come at charging your car 3 different ways. And things are happening so fast with all the money pouring out that I went to the EV site today, the state site, and there are now more than 4,000 charging stations, and I only built this slide deck like 2 months ago. There are now more than 4,000 charging stations in the state, and there are 101,000 EVs on the road in Colorado. So we are on our way to our goal of 940,000 EVs. And we have 101,000 before all these discounts. Can you imagine how fast they're going to be flying off the shelves come 2024 when you can go down to the dealer and say, get me a car, take $12,500 off the MSRP right now, I'll sign? It's going to be fabulous. So these are all the dealerships right now that participate in the program. Will take your $5,000 state credit and apply it against the purchase price of your car, and are prepared on January 1st to apply the federal credit as well. So again, you can have a copy of this slide presentation, but all over the state, there are companies that are participating in the federal and in the state program. So you can see in El Paso and Douglas and Garfield and Jefferson and El Paso and Jefferson. And what do you need to qualify for this? The state doesn't care if you paid no tax at all. You get $5,000 off an EV. That's how anxious the state of Colorado is to switch you from gas to electric. So it is a fully refundable tax credit, and that's why everybody can go down and say, take $5,000 off the purchase price. The feds have an income requirement that you can't make more than $150,000 as an individual, or $225,000 if you're the head of household, or $300,000 if you're married filing jointly. So it's pretty hard not to qualify for the federal tax credit. The major issue is that the car must be both manufactured in America and its battery components have to be made in America. And that's a harder combination. So for example, the Hyundai Ioniq is a fabulous car, but does not qualify for any federal discount. So that's why fueleconomy.gov is your starting point for where to get information. There's also a local Colorado company that I'll tell you about, but the point is that for the tax years beginning in 2024, the state is throwing in an extra $600 to all the dealers to encourage them to be part of this program so that you can safely do business and get all these discounts applied to your car. So they will cover that to take care of the paperwork for applying for your tax credit on your behalf. And of course, they keep your renewable energy credit, which is a really important business tool. You can purchase as many EVs as you want. You can buy an EV for every member of your household. You just can't, use the tax credit more than once on the same car. So there are 10 EVs right now under $40,000. So I thought I would lay some of them out. The Bolt and the Bolt EUV, the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Equinox. So in these, again, is the top line purchase price is $40,000 or less. The Hyundai Kona Electric, the Mini Cooper, the Volvo, my personal favorite, the VW ID4 because it has all-wheel drive. So I appreciate all-wheel drive living here. So you can see all the individual prices. The Mini Cooper, $31K. I mean, that's a great price. The Kia Niro, and really much better range than even 3 years ago. And a reminder that EVs cost about 31% less in maintenance because there's no more tune-ups, no more oil changes. There's basically tires, lots of tires, because EVs recharge themselves as they drive every time you brake. So when you go up the hill through the Eisenhower Tunnel, you're losing a lot of electricity, but when you come down into Summit County, you're gaining a lot of electricity. So driving in the mountains is an interesting time. And you never have to buy gas again. And you don't have to care how much gas costs. And you don't have to use Gas Buddy. And you don't have to get your oil changed. And it's carbon free. So, save a kid an asthma attack. Please buy an EV. Drops to $3,500 in 2025. And we don't know if we can offer the program at all in the future because of Tabor. Right? So, okay, so hopefully I've convinced you that 2024 is the year to buy an electric vehicle, or if you don't want to buy one, lease one, and get to know the joy of instantly picking up to full highway speed. I mean, instantly. It's so fabulous, so much safer to get on the highway. But, maybe you need a bike. So in that case, we'll basically cut the price of an e-bike in half. That's what these deals provide. So if you are a low-income resident, which means you make less than $60,000 a year, you can get $1,100 off the purchase price of an e-bike, plus $100 for a lock and a helmet, plus $300 for the cargo carrier on the back, and an extra $250 if you need adaptive equipment because you have a disability, but you want to use a bike. And the e-bike program that Denver started is so popular, it sells out in hours every month. And so the state got in on the game And now the state is rolling it out to all the cities. So they've just announced Steamboat Springs and Parker and Colorado Springs, and there's a whole bunch of cities that are also offering $1,000 off plus lock and helmet, etc. And all you have to do to get an e-bike credit is be 18 and make 80% or about 80K or less in annual median income. So they're really encouraging you to drive, to ride a bike. And then finally, beginning in 2024, it's 30% off electric yard equipment. The actual total is 33%, but 3% gets kept by Home Depot to run around and reprice all the electric lawnmowers and leaf blowers. But this is important because I hate leaf blowers anyway. There's an assisted living community across the street from me, and they love leaf blowers. And, oh, man, at 7:30 on a Monday morning, this is annoying. But running a gas-powered leaf blower for just 1 hour is the same as driving from LA to Denver. That's a huge, huge amount of ozone pollution and, just general carbon pollution. And running a gas-powered lawnmower for 1 hour emits the same amount of pollution as driving 300 miles. I love my electric lawnmower. It's quiet. It starts 100% of the time. I love my battery-powered weed whacker, although that battery, I have a big battery and it's heavy. So the solution to the climate crisis lies within all of us because they won't stop producing fossil fuels until we stop buying them. So we have to stop buying fossil fuels. We can stop fracking. We can save the planet. It will never be cheaper than it is to reduce your consumption in 2024. So I'm here to ask you to make a plan, and these guys are here to help you do that. Go Electric Colorado is a new nonprofit that you can call, and they will help you figure out what is the most energy efficient home you can have and how to take advantage of the tax credits for home energy efficiency improvements, insulation, windows, heat pumps, the whole shebang. Drive Electric Colorado is here to help you with anything about electric vehicles. EVCO is the Energy Office's website, so that's where you go to get the state's help for weatherization assistance, clean energy credits. Everything you need to know is at evco.colorado.gov. And even the White House has an Inflation Reduction Act guidebook that you can download that will help you figure out how to take advantage of these home incentives for the next 10 years. Because remember, the home incentives now go, the solar credit was going to expire in 2026. It now goes to 2032, as do all the rest of these incentives. So please make a plan today, because if we don't have a livable climate, no other issue matters. Thank you so much. Questions?
So I'm on an EV. I guess I wanted you to really hone in on something I think that's crucial, which is the difference between a tax credit and a rebate, and just how accessible are all these, amazingly attractive numbers. Because I'm not sure that it's true that you can call this, $10,000 off. I think sometimes we want to make sure we're not misleading people to say, if you don't make enough money to really take advantage of these tax credits, and there's lots of us, a lot of retired folks here probably in this mode, who don't have that tax appetite.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in if it's true that the community will absorb those, and just really to talk about a rebate versus a tax credit. Yeah.
It is true, and on the slide as well, that the federal tax credit is not a refundable credit. So you do have to have owed $7,500 over the course of any calendar tax year in order to get the $7,500 credit. The state, however, is a refundable credit. So that $5,000 is yours if you make no money. So, yes, that is why you have to look at how you combine the credits. And then additionally, there is, the issue of, is it only $3,750 because the battery components aren't made yet in America? And I would say about 80% of all of the EVs on the market do not yet have their battery components made in this country. We don't have lithium mines. We don't have cobalt mines. So you have to be a member, you have to be in a free trade agreement with the United States in order to qualify. So that means that we're not using Congolese child labor to make our car batteries because we don't have a fair trade agreement with the Congo. So we are sourcing most of our battery components from Canada. So yes, that is true. The federal credit, you must earn, you must not earn more than $150,000. Again, the state doesn't care. And at the state, you get $5,000 off regardless. Yes?
I'm curious what you think about the loophole that exists with leasing in that regard, because I believe in that the requirement for the batteries being made in the U.S. does not apply. You can still, if you're leasing, get the $7,500 credit is what I was reading.
Yes, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated because the dealer has to check the vehicle identification number, and the IRS gives them a place where they can type in the VIN number and confirm qualification. But yes, assuming that, in fact, they do meet the program requirements, yes, the $7,500 discount applies to leases as well.
Right. But that vehicle does not have to meet the battery made in the U.S. requirement, is my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the second follow-on question to that would be, is the dealer in that case, or the leasing company, are they the one that has the tax appetite such that somebody who's retired might be able to go through the leasing program? The leasing company and their tax appetite is enormous, so they'll take that on. They'll give you the discount that you were looking for. And then I've been reading about people who are doing a lease of one day and taking their car back the following day.
That seems like cheating. I have not heard that. The federal leasing requirement is a minimum 2-year lease, and the state leasing requirement matches that. So a minimum 2-year lease in the state. But yes, being able to apply $12,500 off a lease rate is such an enormous down payment that it drops the average cost. Like when I was looking at a VW ID4, it dropped my monthly payment down to $126 a month. Whereas if I purchased the ID4, it was $500 and something. So yeah, it's a steal to apply this to leasing. And it's a great way to get to know the EV market. It's also a great way to wait for these new battery technologies to come on board so that you have longer range and shorter battery recharging times. And more vehicles will be V2G, vehicle to grid. And so you'll have the opportunity to back up your house's power supply with your car in the future.
And an indirect effect would be to fuel the used car market, because leased cars typically go into the used market after 2 or 3 years, where they're then available to lower income people.
Right.
Or people just like me who never buy anything but a used car.
Right. I mean, I haven't bought a new Subaru and I don't know how long. But anyway, yeah, I mean, leasing is such a great opportunity right now because we are on the cusp of another revolution in battery design. And so it's a great opportunity if you don't own an EV to get to know the world of electric vehicles. They're amazing. They're really amazing cars, and they're so quiet. And the Tesla makes a farting noise if you want it to, which if you have children, they really appreciate a farting Tesla. So there's all sorts of unusual things that go on in the world of electric vehicles.
I actually have a question for one of our audience members here. I see you wear a Helio home. Are you with that company or?
I am, yeah. I'm
Okay.
an electrification consultant.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, so my question for you then is, are those people who listen to the part about the heat pump and other electrification gimmicks in the house, would you be able to meet? to meet.
Heat pumps are real.
I'm German sometimes. I'm looking for words and bad words come to mind. Gimmick was probably one of them. But basically my question is, is the industry of HVAC installers, etc., electricians able to meet the market demand that is coming probably just like this wave over
The
here?
answer is no.
I can't speak on behalf of the total HVAC industry. I mean, there's so many mom and pop shops that need to have like the administrative overhead to understand all these rebates and tax credits available. But there are companies like Helio Home and our biggest competitor, Elephant Energy. I'm not just going to promote Helio. I should let you know about your options. So both companies are going to be well versed in helping you understand your options. So I'm glad you asked me to speak because, especially for the retired individuals in the room that don't have taxable, they're not really paying that much in taxes. They won't be able to get the non-refundable tax credit, obviously. But for heat pumps, in the fall of 2024 is when the Colorado Energy Office expects these rebates to go live. There will be an $8,000 rebate available as an upfront discount towards the purchase of a heat pump.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
and
for income eligible households, I actually talked to the executive director of the Colorado Energy Office, and that's still TBD on what that eligibility will look like, but it's supposed to be 150% of area median income, which is in Denver County, which is where I live, that's $125,500 for median household income. So that times 1.5 is 180,000. But so a lot of people are going to be under that threshold.
And
details are still being worked on.
And I do want to say that it often is months out to schedule a heat pump installation, and you have duct work and electrical wiring, and there's some non-insignificant things that have to take place in your house. So it's a great idea to start now, getting quotes and getting on somebody's calendar for next spring, next summer, and then you can apply the state tax credits next year. 2024 is really the year to do it because the discounts start to go away in 2025. And I know I saw Bob Foley at Elephant give a talk to the Sierra Club recently, and he said they are desperate to have more apprenticeship programs in high schools, to bring more electricians and more people who know how to repipe homes and things like that for heat pumps. So it's, it's really important to get in line with these guys in the same way that you will likely have to order your EV to get the one that's exactly the one that you want. Because they just don't keep them in stock and they fly right out of the dealer showrooms.
Also, I should probably note, I'm only 3 months into my job, but I was like, okay, these tax credits and rebates, there's so many local ones. Golden, there's Boulder County, Boulder City, Fort Collins has its own, Golden has its own. Then there are Xcel Energy ones, and then there are Colorado state income tax credits and federal. So I was like, I had to create a spreadsheet for all this, and I have about 80 of these incentives, and I got permission from my leadership to open source it like last week. So I shared it with Go Electric Colorado. So I don't know the best way to get that to everyone here, but maybe I could give it to you.
Yeah, give it to me and take a card and I will pass it, pay
Yeah.
it forward. And
Is it on the Go Electric
It's
website?
not on their website currently, no. But I mean, if you go to like Rewiring America, which is a pretty good source of information, they just don't know enough about the local Colorado stuff right
Right.
now.
Yeah, I don't actually list Rewiring America because they're federal, so they're great in helping understand the federal tax credits, but the local guys like Elephant and Helio and Blue Sky and a few other people that do heat pump installs really get trained well in how to maximize these incentives. And if you're on a fixed income, you can get a new Energy Star refrigerator this year, and next year you get more insulation, and the year after that, you know what I mean? And you do just small projects at a time because a lot of us can't afford to, decarbonize the entire house in one shot. That's why it's great that this is a decade-long program.
Yeah, and just briefly to explain why I call on you here this is a new type of company. I didn't want to promote any particular company, but we need this kind of company that have the more holistic approach that can give you an estimate for everything in the home and in transportation that needs to be electrified, and then let you put together a portfolio of work that you want to do over the years, or this year or next year. That was too much work for the individual homeowner to think about all of these elements that come together as one system. And that's why I'm glad that these new types of companies are coming forward. That said, I still got my solar installation from a local mom and pop shop. But if they're competent and if the homeowner knows what they want and what they need, that is also an option. And there's a question there.
So it might be worth pointing out, I don't know if you were aware of this, but as far as I know, the federal tax credits can carry over. So you can use them in subsequent years until you use up that tax credit. That helps sometimes in budgeting. But as for a lot of these questions, Jan, I'm seeing there's a lot of variations that make these complexities just through the roof. For instance, with your chargers that Excel can provide, that can't be bidirectional because they're not on the market yet. And part of that goal is to be bidirectional so you can access that capacity in the car.
There are actually two bidirectional EV chargers on the market that Excel is providing.
But they don't have it through all the different type of charger plans yet.
Right, that's true.
So there's a lot of variations in all these programs.
Right.
I don't know if there's some way to get a central place to get at all that information and all this variabilities. That's the challenge that I see.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why you want to use a nonprofit like Go Electric Colorado. Because Go Electric Colorado is designed to look at your home, your car, the grid, ways you can sell energy, what's known as a multi-unit collar on your solar PV so that you can sell your excess solar to your neighbor. You can sell it to a community solar garden. I mean, there are ways to actually decarbonize your house and make money, make an ongoing monthly income from it. I allow you to charge when the sun is shining for free at my house, but I know people that charge $3 a kilowatt hour, for safe access to a guaranteed charger. Because I have rooftop solar and I want to encourage decarbonization, I let you charge for free during daylight hours.
Yeah, on the subject of chargers, you have to be careful to read the fine print with Excel, as many of you probably already know. Their current program for EV chargers, where they pay for the installation, actually come with a monthly fee that could be something like $18. So it's kind of like paying for a cable modem that you could buy for $50, and instead you're paying $10 per month. Do those calculations, or you'll feel cheated. Yeah.
I have two simple questions. Can you go back one slide to your links?
Sure.
And then secondly, I'm having some insulation put in my house soon. Should I wait till January?
No, the 30% discount went into effect in 2023. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that you just mentioned, I want to see what the general view is that I know that the Inflation Reduction Act made a whole lot of incentives available for things you would do to improve energy efficiency in your home. And they directed that through state governments. State governments have been chewing on that for 16 months. What's the program to roll that out in the state of Colorado such that what looks like a really good deal can actually be put to work?
The Colorado.gov website has an application form for what's known as the Weatherization Assistance Program, or WAP. So you can go to the Weatherization Assistance Program and you can apply to be considered for grant money. If you are a low income or a senior or you live in a disproportionately impacted community, you can apply for special discounts. You can apply for pilot projects. There's a number of different programs. The Weatherization Assistance Program rolls down from the State of Colorado's Energy Office to the Department of Local Affairs, which rolls it down to the counties, your county resource plans. So, for example, Jeffco has a climate action plan. You talk to the county commissioner and say, what are the weatherization programs available in Jeffco? And they will help you find out how you access those resources. And again, people like Go Electric Colorado are there to help you navigate that. If you live in Douglas County, what do they do that's different from Jeffco? If you're a Black Hills customers, the discounts are different for batteries and for solar PV. Well, generally not solar, but for batteries and for EV charging.
Jen, one other question. There's in college towns and all over the place, there's lots of HOAs and apartment blocks. How shall EV charging work if you have to deal with thousands of HOAs?
Last year, we passed a law to require all multi-unit housing complexes to have at least 10% electric vehicle chargers. We allow charging at rest stops and turnouts now on the highway instead of necessarily at an exit like a traditional gas station. And there are places like Golden Realty that have public chargers in front of their real estate office. So I belong to two Find Me a Charger networks, Charge Hub and EV Match. And EV Match is the one that gave me my free charger if I made my level 2 charger part of their network. So between Charge Hub and EV Match, and then whatever, like for example, if you buy a Tesla, Tesla will find you all the DC charging stations, all the Tesla specific charging stations. So there's no shortage of ways to easily find a charger. I went up to Paonia, and tiny little Paonia, which only has, 4,000 people, maybe not even that, has 6 chargers. So, it's just amazing how fast. Like I said, I only built this presentation a couple of months ago, and we've already gone from 3,300 charging stations to over 4,000. So they're coming online really fast. And we have spent or are spending $15 million to put these DC fast chargers and the level 2 chargers everywhere we can.
We have a question over here.
Well, I was just going to expand on because I know it's a concern with a lot of folks with HOAs and apartment buildings, and if we get a car, how are these folks going to charge, especially if you're living in one of them? But that House bill that she was referring to is even better, and it's that the HOAs for a long time were sort of anti-making the accommodation because it meant that they had to figure out how they were going to bill each person individually. It meant they had to solve a lot of problems, and so they would just say no. If you owned a condo inside that HOA, it was just easier to say no. Now they're not allowed to say no anymore.
Right.
If you have expressed it, that you're interested, there's a willingness, that maybe even you're willing to help pay for some of it, you've demonstrated some, I forget what the actual word, you demonstrate interest. They can't say no. So that House Bill 123 that got passed this year.
Yeah, if you want to read about solar in the Denver Post last week, there's an article about what happens when an HOA tries to turn down solar. And there's a lot of history in back there. I was quoted extensively. I'd like to ask you, my dad would be mad.
Just one quick thing before we get off the subject of HOAs, and that's that we also passed a turf replacement program. So if you want to dig up your bluegrass lawn and you live in an HOA, they can't stop you from doing that either and planting a garden.
I think we're missing a really big picture here, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all preaching to the choir, but how do we get money to, like a Lakewood? We're part of a group, you and I, trying to get Lakewood to really look at how do they get money on a big scale, not individually to people, but to have our localities
Right.
get the money from the state and the feds to do more widespread electrification.
Right.
So, could you talk to that?
Yeah, the Department of Local Affairs rolls out $20 million every 3 months. And it's the job of local governments to apply for the funding available. And then the Department of Local Affairs goes to the feds, and they have used this $20 million in the fourth quarter for things like I mentioned, bike lanes, ride shares, micro transit. One community, I forget where, but it's a rural community, electrified, put rooftop solar on an entire subdivision. So, so they took care of everybody's solar with a grant from the Department of Local Affairs. We are very fortunate living in Golden, Denver, Boulder area because we have really committed local governments that are really committed to helping us acquire that funding that's coming out of the federal government. And that is why way back in the beginning of the presentation, I showed you all that bipartisan infrastructure law money and lit up in green all the things that we have some control over. Disbursement. So it's up to you guys to go out to your city councilors and say, I want a community solar garden. I want whatever. Everybody gets a bike. Be Oprah. Yes.
Is there good information on the DOLA website about exactly how this money gets doled out and how to apply for it in your city?
Well, the Department of Local Affairs runs training seminars, I've been on one, to listen to how they train local governments on defining what a grant can look like, because some are, for example, using bipartisan infrastructure law money for broadband internet. That's part of infrastructure is internet. So basically, it's an enormous training program. That's why people like Helio also exist. They understand that they have to train the homeowner on what they can qualify for, what works best for them. An air source heat pump isn't a good fit for my house because I have hot water baseboard heat, so I have no forced air. So an air source heat pump is not a good solution for me. But a ground source or a geothermal one is. And I have a huge unfinished basement, so I have lots of places for coiling.
Yeah, on that note, how do local governments get the money and how do they learn their stuff? Those cities who already have a sustainability officer are obviously ahead of the game.
Lakewood does.
Because that's basically smack in the center of their job description.
Right.
And not all communities have one, but...
but Golden, Wheat Ridge, Lakewood, Arvada, they all have them.
There's competition between municipalities. They look over the fence and see what other people do, and they're getting anxious. If Golden sucks out all the grant money, they're finally getting on the case, I would think.
So I live in an unincorporated Jeffco in a metro district. Where do I go? We are looking at community solar. We just don't know where to start.
Start with your metro district representative and ask him when the next round of funding is available through the Department of Local Affairs. Yep. And you can easily, in fact, I will take you there now. Well, I suppose it depends on whether you want to apply for your own grant. If you have your own board of directors, you could run your own grant program. Where DOLA can help you is understanding the administration of a grant, because that's where the gotcha is that they'll throw money at you, but you have to account for every penny of it, and you have to spend it by a certain date. And, there's just rules. So the big issue really is in the administration. And okay. I can't load the DOLA site, but... See, funding resources for local governments, right there on the homepage.
Okay, we have another question back here.
Yeah, I have an existing solar system. Can credits be applied to expanding the size of it or increasing the size of it?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Just contact whoever your solar installer was originally, and you can upgrade. I don't know of anybody in the solar industry in Colorado that doesn't know you can now do up to 200%. So if you want, for example, to build an ADU, you could put rooftop on your main house and power an accessory dwelling unit. So
Is that 200% with all utilities or only Excel?
that's 200% for any rooftop solar installation. So it's independent of utilities. And the state passed a law last year that you have to hook up new solar within 90 days because people were waiting months to get their solar hooked up, and so they're paying for their panels, and they're also paying XL, which was really a bum deal. So we fixed that last year in 218. So.
Question over here.
So would workforce development programs through the IRA also go through DOLA? Do you know that?
I don't know that. We actually have a whole separate set of apprenticeship programs, and I'm not sure who administers them. So that is a darn good question, and if I had internet access, I could probably easily find out.
Do you have any sense of how Colorado Energy Office is going to be rolling out those rebates in 2024 yet? Is that going to go back through the utility companies again? Is that going to be a separate?
Yeah, I think in order to discourage bottlenecking and to encourage the utility to do planning, electric resource planning, they want you to work through your utility if you can. You know, some people, I'm not a fan of XL. I had to pay them for too many years and they bugged me. So you know, I do it all myself and tell XL about it later. But
Their clean heat plan is pretty lacking, and it's obvious that they're going to be recalcitrant and beneficial electricity.
yeah, 4% reduction is a joke. So yeah, I mean, we're all fighting the, you know, we need more natural gas plants because no, we don't. So.
It seems to me we're getting a little bit into
far
the
afield.
weeds, but we also have to acknowledge that the weeds exist, and that you have to. If the government gives away money, obviously there have to be safeguards,
Right.
that unscrupulous people or businesses don't jump in and grab it. So.
Yeah, but in our case, the issue is we don't want the fossil fuel companies to get it. We don't want XL to be using federal funds to build a gas plant. We want them to build wind turbines and community solar gardens. And that's why you need to communicate up the chain from your city council all the way up to your state rep and your state senator, and let them hear from you.
Okay, well,
So
thank you.
thank you all. Thank you very much. Go forth and electrify.